Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The film Social Dilemma came into my attention recently because people were talking about it and some people asked me about it. I don't have Netflix, so I didn't watch it, but I did read the reviews and the content of it. And to me, it was not a new topic because I worked in Silicon Valley before, so I was pretty familiar with that notion. And since we've been recently talking a lot about perception, information war, and whatnot from the neurological and biological frequency aspects in this channel, I thought it would be a good topic to look at the content to some extent of this film, dissect it a little bit, and look at it from that perspective, and I would be curious to see what you guys think about it. By the way, if you're interested in the soundtrack that I'm doing, I made a separate playlist for you guys. You can go and watch it there if you're interested. Otherwise, the rest of this channel, the topics are about looking at our mindset, our minds, our perception at a neurological, but also at a frequency level. Challenging ourselves a little bit, at least to some extent, so that it would potentially help us expand our mind, expand our consciousness, which will then result in more successful and happy life. And I only talk about from my own experiences, as well as some of the literature review that I've done, but I tend to not talk about topics that I don't have any knowledge about, and also I tend to not speculate. So we're basically here to have those discussions with each other. So essentially, from the topic of the social dilemma that I've heard is people were reacting towards the fact that the same type of information is being presented to them day in and day out because the algorithms of the social media pick and choose what to present. Now, I can only talk about my own experience when I was in Silicon Valley. I have never worked with a team that did this from a evil point of view, from being vicious about it. On the contrary, the teams that I work with always had the best in mind when it came to the user. So I think what has been mistranslated a little bit is how it all started, but then how it potentially got screwed up because the way in which people interpreted it. And one of the reasons that I remember when I was in Silicon Valley and the teams that I work with in terms of improving the algorithms was always to make the users feel more comfortable, showing them what they are interested in, etc. Now, over the years, if that algorithm had the opposite effect, it might not be 100% on the algorithm itself, but maybe 50-50, because me as a viewer, as a reader, would also need to be knowledgeable enough to be able to challenge my thinking about the information that I'm being presented with and question that to some extent. And I think that has been diluted a little bit, at least, and I think that's why a lot of people react towards it. Please don't get me wrong. If you are one of those people who are reacting towards it and think it's evil, I'm not negating you. All I'm doing is to make you look at it from that point of view, because not all responsibility should be put upon other people. Now, I totally get it, because once you're being presented with the same type of information over and over again, you tend to build that notion, and we see that extremely clearly, especially in 2020, with the way in which people think of certain topics, certain issues, certain dilemmas. So I totally agree with everybody there, but at the same time, I also know that the human brain and perception is so intelligent that at some point in time, I'm actually glad that people are questioning these algorithms so that they can start being skeptical about the information that is being presented to them, because whether we believe it or not, information impact us extremely. A lot of times we don't even know it. We think that we're thinking for ourselves, but we're not, because we've been fed with the same type of information over and over again. That's why, for example, you can meet people with totally different ideologies, but it's mainly because of their upbringing, or it's because the type of information that they were fed since birth. And we've talked a lot about that in the past, because that also creates the perception and the EMFs that surrounds us. And so for that reason, it's very, very good to be skeptical and questioning these algorithms. Questioning the algorithms is one thing, but not taking responsibility as to being able to go an extra mile to think for ourselves and go the extra mile to investigate for ourselves is another thing, because every time it takes two to tango, and the perception that I'm building, partly it's my fault, but also partly is, for example, the type of information that I'm being exposed to. And I totally get what people are saying. When the algorithms show the same type of information, it might have not started for it to be an evil thing, but maybe now it got lost in translation, because then people did not take responsibility and started believing in the same type of information, and as a result they became really apart from one another. That's why it's always healthy to be able to challenge ourselves enough of a time to think freely, and also look at both sides if there are two sides. If there are several sides, to look at all those sides. Once we do that, we're able to then expand our mindset. And those people are the ones who are mostly successful in life, because they're not just thinking one thing. They give themselves permission to challenge their thoughts processes, so that they could also listen and listen to all sides. Lastly, I want to reiterate how important perception is, because one of the best lessons in life that I came to learn the hard way, was that no matter what I did or did not do, there were always a type of a perception, for example, in my life about me. And that is how I gradually came to understand and learn to live with it, because people's perception is so set. It's a set of electromagnetic field around them. It is like a wall of EMFs, electromagnetic waves around them, that it's so hard to penetrate. And so because of that, I gradually, the hard way, learned that no matter how I changed myself, no matter what I did or did not do, their thoughts of me were the same, mainly because of their own perception. It had nothing to do with them being vicious or evil. It was just being for people who are, don't take the time or effort to question their perception. And because of that, there's always a level of judgment involved. Regardless who you meet, it really doesn't matter. It could even be the closest people in your family. And that's why it's even more important for us who are willing to challenge our own perception to give ourselves that freedom and be courageous enough to challenge that, because it's really, really not easy to challenge our own perception. And we cannot expect others to do that for themselves. We can only do that for ourselves. And so I really applaud each and every one of you who are courageous enough to do that for yourself, because it's really not easy. the perception, the moment you try to change your perception, it's a very volatile moment in any person's life, because you come to have a little bit of an existential crisis moment, because your EMF is everything. It basically encompasses you. It encompasses your whole body, and so it hugs the whole body. So it's really not easy, especially I think in 2020, because there's just. And so lastly, I just wanted to say that if you happen to watch Social Dilemma or not, and if you have any other thoughts about what I just said, please comment. But I just want to urge you to look at it also from that perspective. Not everybody is evil in this life, and not everybody is an angel in this life. I think that we just need to be have a healthy way of looking at ourselves, but also at the world. Now, again, I'm not saying that it was not done on purpose. I'm not saying that people are not being censored. In fact, I have seen it myself, that there are a lot of people with a lot of evidence that come out and they are being censored, and also they are being shadow banned. So they are not being their ideas are not being presented. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that let's look at it from all perspectives. And in fact, the best researchers in the world, whether they are academia or in professional or none of the above, the best ones are the ones who are able to look at things holistically from all point of view, and then build an informed decision. Unfortunately, in 2020, we've been bombarded with a lot of misinformation, and that has unfortunately shaped a lot of perception. But the way I see it, it has shaped and shifted people's perception. Only those who did not give themselves the freedom of thought to think outside of their own perception. Only those people were fed in. They had this snowball effect. But for those of you who were courageous enough to kind of be okay with your perception being challenged, then 2020 has been probably very exciting, because it really challenged all of us to look at things from all kinds of angles and then make up our own mind, which in turn then makes up our perception. Because again, perception is everything, and it trumps everything in one's life, because our decisions are basically influenced drastically by our perceptions, whether we like it or not. So I hope you enjoyed this topic. If you like, comment, subscribe, share, I appreciate it. Take care. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.